welcome to lovely wet Wales again. It is the beginning of March and March has definitely come in like a lion. It is high winds, heavy rain, really not nice, quite cold. But I'm quite pleased because I'm hoping that if the old saying is true and it comes in like a lion, March will go out like a lamb, which hopefully means towards the end of March, beginning of April, when all the seeds are growing and planted, we'll have some lovely calm and hopefully warmer weather. Let's hope, let's hope. So I've had to have a change of plan today. I was going to be outside still sorting out my infamous raspberry bed, but I'm not going out in this weather. It's blowing an absolute gale. So I'm in my greenhouse and I thought I would share with you today some of the good bargains I've managed to find. Well, hopefully they're good bargains. And some little tips I use to try and save a little bit of money in the garden. I mean, gardening can be quite expensive with all the things you have to buy, like pots and compost and seeds, etc. So I try and sort of save as much money as I can and make my money go as far as it can because my budget's quite limited and I'm sure most people's is too. So here's just a few of the things that I personally do to try and make my money go a little bit further in the garden. Well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is seeds. I got a whole basket full of seeds here. I was quite lucky that last year and the year before, for Christmas and birthdays, I actually asked people for seeds or gift vouchers, which I'll talk about later, to get seeds. And so I've stockpiled quite a few because they do actually last a few years. Most of them have got at least a 2-year shelf life. So if you don't use them all 1 year, you can save them obviously and use them again, as long as you keep them in sort of a nice dry place. I wouldn't keep them really in the garden shed or the greenhouse unless you keep them in a tin or a strong container, because the mice love to eat seeds, as I found out to my cost before now, and have just sort of picked up empty chewed packets. So I tend to keep mine in our sort of porch area at home, so that it is safe from nibbling things. So I've got quite a lot of seeds that I got from garden centres with vouchers for Christmas, and you can sometimes, if you shop around, some centres have some really good 3 for 2 offers. I know one of our garden centres does, that you buy 3 packets of seeds, you get the cheapest one free. Well, if you shop very savvy, and the trouble is you get the cheapest item free. So if you make sure you get all the seeds roughly the same price, then you save a good deal of money, even if it means doing 2 trips to the checkout. For instance, I've usually check all the seeds that I want, decide mentally what I want, and put them together price-wise, so that when I go to the till, I get the best deals. And then I'll go round again. I'll perhaps go for a cup of tea or go and put stuff in the car, and then come back and go, oh, I've decided while I'm here I'll get a few more, and I get all the cheaper ones then in one sort of batch at the till. So all the cheaper ones, so that you end up saving quite a bit like that. It's the way you buy 3 for 2 offers when you're doing Christmas present shopping. You always try and put the 3 most expensive together so you save more money. And the other thing you get at our garden centre at the moment is if you buy any 2 packets of certain brands of seeds, you'll get a free packet from a few to choose from. There's not usually many to choose from, but it's worth, if they're a good deal, to make sure you pick up any free packets you're entitled to. It's mainly flowers, the free ones, but you can buy vegetable seeds and then get a free pack of flower seeds. Now, I'm not hot on flowers. I don't grow a lot of flowers. I'm quite practical, and I've always said, if I can't eat it, I'm not growing it. I haven't got the time. But they are quite pretty in the garden, and my youngest daughter is actually getting into flower growing, and she loves to have a few tubs of flowers. So I always pick up the free ones for her. So I've got here some poppies, and I've got some marigolds. Now, marigolds are quite a good companion plant anyway. And something else, I'm not very good with flowers. This is called Malva, which looks quite pretty. So I made sure I picked up all the free packets I was entitled to for her. So that saved a bit, because it means I don't have to buy any extra ones for her. The other thing they sometimes do is try me packets. Like this one was 99p for sunflowers. Now, as I say, they do last quite a while, and sometimes you'll get a packet of seeds with far more seeds than you need, whereas this is a smaller pack for less money. And so things like that, they can be quite a good buy as well, depending on what you want. Now this year, when it comes to seeds, the Pound Shop has got in on the act, and they do some vegetable seeds. I actually picked these up. I was very lucky because I know they're selling out really fast. I've got parsnips, carrot and spring onions, and these were 3 packets for £1. Now, I don't know what they're like. I've never grown them. Watch this space. But I thought for £1 for 3 seeds, 3 packets of seeds, and there's 350 seeds in this one, 400 seeds in the carrots, and 250 parsnip seeds. So I thought, even if only half of them grow, that's still a really good buy. So watch this space and we'll see how these grow. Now different companies have different price seeds. For example, Wilko's, theirs are only £1, and they do have the same amount in them, I think, as the more expensive ones. And Wilko's are quite good for their gardening products. I get quite a lot of things from there. And also, if you shop around, don't just go and pick the first packet of seeds you see. If you look, all the different brands are different prices, and sometimes you can find what you're looking for at a slightly cheaper price just by going to the next stand and picking up a different brand. But always check the contents, because you might think, oh, it's a bargain, but it's only got about 3 seeds in it, whereas the one that's slightly more has got hundreds. So you have to sort of shop savvy, but by not sticking to one brand of seed and shopping around, you can actually save quite a bit on seeds. Now the other thing I like to try and use and get bargains for are seed trays. Now I try and make my seed trays last as long as I can, so I don't have to keep buying them, but they don't last forever. And I do find I bought some from a pound type shop last year, and they ripped really badly. Like, I used them once, and then trying to get the plants out of them to actually plant them once the seeds are grown, they just ripped terribly. So although they were very, very cheap, they weren't very robust, so they only did the one season, which is great, but I try and make mine last so that I don't have to keep buying them every year to get more use out of them. So these I got from Wilko's, and it was actually 3 trays for 75p, which I thought was fantastic. And they've got 24 cells in there, which is a little things, and they're quite a good depth as well. And that was the cheapest I found in my area. I'm a bit limited around here because I do live in a very, very rural area. So we haven't got loads of shops and lots of choice. You do have to travel quite far. So my local sort of shopping town, which is nearly 40 minutes away, has got a Wilko's, and I'd looked around our local garden centre, which was quite expensive, and I looked in various places, and that was the best buy for me. And you could buy, so I bought a couple of packs of those, and you could buy a lid to go on it for 75p as well. So that it comes as like a little kit, and I thought that was a really good buy for what I'd seen anywhere else. And they also seem quite robust, so I'm hoping that they will last a good couple of seasons if I treat them really well, because some of the ones I've had have been knocking around for quite a few years now, and they really have sort of given up the ghost, so I needed some new ones this year. I also found these, which I was really pleased with. This is 10 little half trays. Now I randomly just stopped off, I was travelling somewhere else, and there was this sort of garden centre come food place on the side of the road, and I just sort of, oh, I'll just stop and see if there's anything in there. And they had this pack of 10 trays. Now it started off at £3.99, but it was 50% off. So basically it was £2 for 10 of these trays, which is definitely the best deal I've found anywhere in my area. I've looked and looked. Now lids can be quite expensive, but because these are small, what I do, I eat an awful lot of fruit, I eat quite a bit of frozen fruit at this time of year, because finding fresh fruit is quite hard and it's quite expensive and quite sour. So I use a lot of frozen fruit which comes in these trays. So I keep them, and I found that one of these trays plus a grape pot fits perfectly on the top. So these, which I buy anyway, will fit on the top to keep them warm, rather than having to spend more money on more little roofs for the trays. So anything like this is really good to keep. And I know fruit comes in these, I think meat products, if you buy that sort of thing, they come in these plastic trays, grapes. So keep all your plastic tray things, and you can use them as little incubators on your tray. So that's really good. And they were also doing a special offer on these. These were $1.99 for 10 with the little cells. And again, my little plastic pots will fit on the top of these, so I can use those a lot too. I also found some good buys with some big pots. Now this year I'm going to do more container gardening for things like lettuce and radishes, and so I wanted some big planters like this to put them in, and these, it was £5 for 2, and these are quite a good size. Oh, it's dripping all over my leg now. And I found those in a garden centre about an hour away from me, where I bought some other things as well, but they were quite good. And then I went into town and found these little ones with my toilet rolls I talk about in a minute. These are actually from Pound Stretchers, and these were £1, not Poundland, Pound Stretchers, and they were really good. And they came in silver, which I quite liked, and they also came in this brown colour, which my daughter quite liked, which she wants to use for some of the flower seeds that I bought, well, I got free with my seeds. And at the moment you can see they're full of toilet rolls and kitchen rolls, because the gardener's friend, you can't do without these. I used to try and fill these with compost and do my peas and my broad beans in them. I don't anymore, because I found it was costing me so much money, because they are quite big to fill. You use a lot of compost in these. So mainly now I cut these in half and use them to start off onions and garlic that I'm waiting to plant outside, because up here I planted out a bit later because I'm so high up and we can still get frosts and stuff well into May. So I'm a bit cagey about when I plant things out. So I start some things off in these, but I cut them in half. The broad beans and things now I use the cells for, because it's a lot less to fill with the compost, and they seem to grow just as well. So, but a gardener's friend. Now sometimes they grow mould and stuff on these, and there is a question mark about the hygiene. I know if you use these for craft with children at toddler groups and stuff, we've been advised to pop them in the microwave and just cook them for a few seconds, because it's, I don't know, this is what I've been told, it's supposed to help sterilise them. So whether you want to do that before you put your plants in them is up to you, but that's an idea. So keep all your toilet rolls, keep all your plastic trays and things like that, and yogurt pots or jelly pots or any sort of pot noodle, I don't know, whatever pots you got. They're also quite good instead of plant pots to pop things on as well. I don't have a lot of that sort of thing, because I don't eat a lot of that sort of stuff at all, so in my household, so I haven't got many of pots. Right, the other thing that's good to keep, if you get any parcels or wrapping, or if you happen to be at friends' houses who are getting parcels, not that I do that, if they have any of this sort of plastic wrapping. Now this is, it's almost like a sack, it's a little plastic sack. I can't remember what was in it, but I do remember going, oh, that'll be quite useful to actually put the seed trays in, to even with the toppers on, with the plastic is on, to keep them extra warmth if we have a cold spell, which we probably will up here. So things like this is good for insulation, and even if at night, to just cover over your plants. So there we are. Another place to get some plants and things for quite a good price is to look at DIY stores. I really wanted a lavender plant, and they're quite expensive. At our local garden centre they were £10. But oh gosh, don't want to spend that. Oh, it smells gorgeous. I got this one for £2.78 at a local DIY store. The only thing I will say is you be careful you don't get sucked into some of their deals that you don't actually need, because I could have had 4 plants in this section for £10, which is a really good deal, but I didn't actually need 4 plants. I only wanted a lavender plant, but it would have been so easy to go, oh yes, I'll have this, this and this, which I didn't go in for, and spend £10 instead of £2.78. So just be warned that don't get sucked into buying unnecessary things just because it's a good price, or else you won't be saving any money, you'll actually spend more. And also some of the local budget supermarkets now do plants, and this is a, I've forgotten what it is now. Oh yes, going mad. It's a red gooseberry, and I wanted another gooseberry bush because mine, unfortunately, I planted a new one a couple of years ago, and unfortunately somebody didn't realise I'd planted it there, and it was only small, and it got mowed, and it hasn't come back since, bless it. It obviously, I thought it might come back, so I left it. So I wanted a gooseberry and I'm not going to plant it in the same place. I've decided I'm going to plant it, or else I'll put sort of railings around it or something this time. But this was £2.99. Again, in our local garden centre it would have been a lot more, and it's quite a nice size. So this is going to be my red gooseberry. So that, it's quite good to look out for bargains there. And talking about garden centres, it is worth checking out different ones. I have one, a local one, which is convenient, I suppose. It's quite expensive. It has a loyalty card with it, but you have to spend an awful lot of money to get a point. So I sort of only managed to tally up a few pound because I don't spend that much money. It seems to be, I think somebody told me once, I think you have to spend about £40 to get a point, which is quite a lot of money. So I think I had about £4 to spend. So I did buy a few broad beans they do them loose. Now that is another thing, for things like broad beans, and I also bought some peas, and I put some of my own money in and got some shallots as well, all in these bags. So I spent, make sure you always spend your points, and sometimes you've got a limited time to spend them, so make sure you don't forget and miss out, because even if it's a couple of pound, it's still a couple of pound. And I got some peas, I don't know if you can see them. Sometimes it works out, well, most times, it's the same as with the supermarkets. If you get them loose and measure them up yourself, they're a lot cheaper than buying them in packets. So I used my points and I got a few things there. And then I also had a gift voucher somewhere for Christmas. And I asked specifically, I say to people, if you're asking for gift vouchers for Christmas, try not to get them specific to a garden centre, but you can get these national ones where you've got a choice of garden centres, because then you can check out the best deals, and otherwise you're tied to that particular garden centre and you might think, oh, that hasn't got the deals I want. Now I've got a garden centre I use quite a bit, but it's about an hour away from me. So I always try and combine it with a trip to the big city, because it's close, it's on the outskirts of our closest major sort of city type, big town shopping type area. I don't know if it's classed as a city, it's like a small city, but it's certainly our biggest urban sort of area, for it's got all the shops and things in it like that, and it has this garden centre which the loyalty points for their card are a lot better. You get a lot more points. I save up, I put £1 a week in a little tin, and I always get my Christmas tree from there, because they're very good also at sending you money off vouchers, and they nearly always do a deal at Christmas. So that combined with my points, I usually do quite well. And you spend a lot less money and get a lot more points. And so I try and go there for a lot of things. And I always try and make sure I use what vouchers they send if it's feasible. For example, I went there recently, and I had my loyalty points voucher to use, and they were giving me money off compost if I bought their own brand compost, peat-free compost, which was great. And they had another voucher as well I used about 3 vouchers. And also they do quite a lot of deals with Christmas things. And me being me, I like to try and get a bargain. And actually bought Christmas presents and things. I make wreaths and things at Christmas, and they had this whole 10p section where things had sort of started off at £3-4 and were all reduced to 10p. Anyway, that, and I had some compost, and I had the 3 for 2 seeds, and and to cut a long story short, I managed to get, I think it was £59 worth of goods reduced down to, I think it was £19.99, which was pretty good saving, I must admit. So loyalty cards are quite good, depending if you get one with a good value, make sure you use your points and make sure you use your vouchers. I always try and combine it with a trip somewhere else, or else the amount it costs me in fuel, it doesn't save me much money, but I sort of made sure I did other things at the same time. So that's quite good as well. And make sure you shop around, basically shop around for different things, and depending what you want to use things for, you can spend less money. For it, the biggest example I can give you is this. This is weed control fabric. Now, if you are using it, I think it's a cheaper one. It was from one of the cheaper shops, and it was reduced. It was £3.79. Now, I know from experience, if you were using this, for example, to go under paths and stuff to really suppress, it rips quite easily. It wouldn't be any good. But I use it a lot of the time for just covering up the garden to warm it up in the spring before I plant out. And that it's perfect for, it's robust enough for that sort of thing. So you sometimes, if you think, well, you know, things sometimes are a false economy, other times it makes sense to, depending what you're using it for, to spend a lot less money. Anyway, I think that's a lot of the tips I've given you. The last one I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to go out and show you because the weather is so bad, is to check out your local market. I have a market sort of 35 minutes away once a week, and when I go there, I always sort of save up to do things all in one go, but they have gardening things on their stalls. And the biggest example I can give you is I needed some rhubarb this year, and if you go to the garden centres, you know, you get that little packet with a tiny bit of rhubarb in. I don't have a lot of success with those, they seem to die off, hence I needed some more this year. And I went to the market, and on the stall it looked like some guy had just got his out of the garden and just chopped it up into bits and was selling it at a fraction of the cost in the garden centres. So I bought 2 clumps of it. I've planted it in the garden and it is doing wonderfully well. I have to say, it is growing superbly, and maybe when the weather's better I'll give you a shot of the rhubarb. I put a tie around it to keep it warm because it's newly planted and to sort of help it establish, and it's doing really well, and that cost me a fraction of what it did it would do in the garden centre or even some of the supermarkets for a much bigger piece and a much sort of robust looking piece. So check out your markets as well, because you might pick up a bargain. I'm sorry this was a bit jumbled. Maybe I should start writing a script, but I've sort of had so much to say. I hope it made sense. Please leave your comments below. If you have any money saving tips, please share them down below, because I'm sure we're all in the same boat, that we want to try and save as much money as we can while having fantastic gardens. Give a nice thumbs up to the video for gardening. I hope the weather's a bit better than it is here for you, but let's hope that March does sort of, as it's come in so badly, will go out nice and lamb-like and we'll have a great spring.